All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak today on Social Square. It's not really Social Square per se. We are doing a post-mortem of some sorts of the prayer breakfast, the 17th one. Do we need an 18th one? Has it lost its value? And that is a question we're asking you. Has the National Prayer Breakfast lost its value? We'd like to know what you think. 22422 is the SMS line. You can tweet at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, at Waigamoura at Zinzi_K. And we'll sample some of your views. The hashtag we're using is Daybreak. Let me introduce our guest real quick. I'm Kadir Ali, blogger and managing editor of wafugaji.co.ke. Asante sana for coming in. His Excellency Martin Moshisho, Deputy Governor Kajiado. He was there at the prayer meeting yesterday. I saw him praying. He'll tell us what he thinks about it and
what he was praying about.
And what he was praying about and whether he thinks it has achieved anything this far and whether we need an 18th one. And we have Arnold Maliba, public policy expert as well. We're still waiting for Miss Anne Mvurya, student leader, University of Nairobi, the first female student leader after 20 years. She was also there. And we'll find out whether she's the change that the young people are looking for or she's more of the same, because we've seen her hanging out mostly with the politicians. And we'll find out whether she's bringing in a new aspect or not. As soon as she shows up, she'll be here.
That's right.
Yeah, so don't be surprised when you see her just...
You were also there.
I was there myself, good. But I was covering the event.
Okay. Okay. All right. So each of you will tell us your thoughts, including Trevor. Front page of the Daily Nation, prayer in futility, with a big question mark. And there's that picture there of two presidents, one deputy president, various government leaders there, President Uhuru Kenyatta, South Sudan President Salva Kiir, Deputy President William Ruto. They should be walking into the location at Safari Park Hotel where the prayers were taking place. Quotes there from the president, the deputy, and US Ambassador to Kenya, Kyle Makata. And we'll talk a little bit about his comments because they went viral. The hashtag Stop the Thieves was a discussion on Kenyan social media for the better part of yesterday. We'll be talking about that shortly. But some of the issues that have come up is 17 prayer breakfasts later. What is there to talk about? The pilgrimage seemed to attract the same group of the old political guard. Was this for the cameras? Leaders looking very sincere, very meek, but the word hypocrisy has also come up on the front page of the Daily Nation. And a president who continually says people need to get to work and expresses his frustration at that, but these are people that he has hired himself, and one wonders what more he can do beyond complaining. And so we'll be talking about that shortly. But let me begin with Honorable Moshisho, the Deputy Governor of Kajiado. You were there. What was your key takeout as you left the prayer breakfast yesterday? Give me two things that you think were achieved there or that stood out for you.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you for having me here with my colleagues to discuss about a number of issues, including the National Prayer Breakfast that we just had as a nation yesterday. And the theme was a new dawn. And that was coming from, I think, Isaiah 58, verse 8. And the theme was also revolving around the issue of corruption that Kenya has been really facing of late, especially with the efforts of the president, the deputy, and other leaders coming out and say we must fight the dragon of corruption. And I think my take home yesterday was, as a nation, we just need to say no to corruption. So this was my message to the citizens of Kenya. And my take was corruption is not a huge animal I mean, in a room. It is in the hearts of people. And I think this is not just for the leaders, political leaders, it is for every Kenyan.
Every Kenyan. Nevertheless, the political leaders set the example. One political leader can tell their community, don't read this, don't do this, and the community will follow without asking questions.
Sure.
So as the leaders left that meeting yesterday and you left with them, did any of them give you an indication that they've left different from how they came? Did some say, anyway, we need to change? Did you get that feeling? Or it was more of, what a good breakfast we've had. Can we go back to our lives? What was the feeling you got from other leaders?
I never had any conversation with any of them.
You just left.
But We addressed media with my boss, Governor Lenku, and we read from the same script. That is the message that we given the people of Kenya.
And you're sticking to that message.
And I stuck to that message.
Maliba, is it really a new dawn?
First of all, it's important to actually just point out that religion is politics by other means.
All religion?
All religion is politics by other means. And it's not really a new dawn. We've seen this 17 times. But much more is that it has been around for longer, since 1987. The attempts have been there, and the pressure to try and come up with that. Now, it's not enough to say no to corruption. We have realized that saying and doing are two different things. My maternal grandfather, a man now late, called Pamba, had a fight with a neighbor over land. It was raining. I'm just told it's a story. So as they fought, he kept on shouting that the man was beating him up. When people came to find, he was actually beating the man, but he was shouting. So our leaders have actually proved.
So the situation was the other way around?
It was the other way around. As he shouted loudly,
help me, help me.
Help me, when they found he was almost killing these other guys. So it's the other guy who needed salvation. Yet he was actually making a lot of noise saying that there is no one in this neighborhood who can save an old man. And that is what our leaders have actually perfected in doing. They shout and say, no to corruption. But they are doing it. So the mouth and the hand are not in the same direction. It's not a new dawn. I also think that I'm moving, so so.
You also think that? Go ahead.
I also think that that having it for 17 years is a long time, and there is no fruit to show for it. In February last year, where I used to work, we were brought cards to go and attend the prayer breakfast at a time like this last year. And the place is at Emerging Leaders Foundation. We were literally all of us young people, all of us. I think the oldest who should be around 37 around that. And when we were brought those cards, no one picked them. Not even a single young person was willing to attend. That was last year. So we've been around this process for so long, and I don't think it's adding much value. My experience with another person, the executive director of an organization for young people again called IWE, a guy called Harrison Nganga. Last year, I spoke to him about him coming up with a sustainability program around his institution. IWE, it does, of course, it's a religious institution, but then it puts young people in places of internship and other things. He told me one thing, that if he has to find a reason why he has to justify that his organization, which to him he feels is a calling, is that he has to find ways to become creative to make it sustainable, then it's time to close shop. I actually had a conversation with him, and I thought that was thinking out of place, and he said that is a calling. If he feels that he has to struggle, he has to get creative to make IWA sustainable, then probably God is telling him to close. Okay. So what happens with this prayer here is that you realize that we keep on doing those things. It now has become a show where guys just show up and they give. It's not a prayer, but it's not a prayer meeting. It's normally a speeches meeting where people come and just give speeches, because Wahiga and Trevor, I know you guys, including Anne, are Christians. You too. And Ahmed Kadar here will actually tell you what a prayer is. But what we meet is that we give speeches, very long speeches, and speak to one another and show some love. Of course, the origin with prayer breakfast was where nemesis will meet within different political camps, that is in the US, and try to speak in one language. Here it's not adding value. We
try to find common ground moving forward.
But here that's not what happens, because people get there and they take jibes at each other. Yes. And so the whole essence of that prayer breakfast doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't even make sense. Yeah. Ahmed Kadar, you come in. What were your thoughts as you observed that the proceedings yesterday?
Okay, sometimes, you know, doing the same thing every day the same way and expecting a different result is a little bit madness. And if you look at the prayer breakfast that we had yesterday, it's something that's been happening for the last 17 years. What has it changed? You know, we need to ask ourselves. In the Quran, there's a verse that says, that is chapter 13, verse 11. There's a verse that says, and I quote it, verily Allah does not change the condition of people until they change what is written in themselves. You know,
what is written in themselves?
Yes, what that means is, if you are praying to God, we all believe in God. I believe so. If you are praying to God, you first of all have to be sincere with yourself. Yeah? You have to be sincere with yourself. You have to be sincere about what you are praying for. So in essence, what that means is that the National Prayer Breakfast, I think it has lost meaning, it has lost value, and if you have seen yesterday on Twitter, the KOT Nation, the Fourth Republic, or the fourth arm of government, you know, as they say it, yeah, has been, you know, on this case, having created so many hashtags for it in different ways. Well, if you have been following the National Prayer Breakfast hashtag, there have been jibes at politicians. That shows you the frustrations Kenyans are going through in terms of these matters. Well, even the ambassador of the US has made a tweet which majority have agreed with. But sometimes, you know, this issue of you know, blind patriotism makes people not take, you know, things into consideration. What he meant was really, people may see, you know, in terms of saying an American taking on us kind of thing, it can be viewed that way. But the reality at the end of the day is, this guy was making a serious statement.
He was making a serious statement. So any of you agreed with that?
I agree with what the US ambassador said, because these are the same people who are talking about, who are praying about to God, who are meeting, are the same people looting this nation. Let's be, you know, be true about that. There's nothing, because if you look at every day, we are in this nation, we read papers, we see 20 million, billion, it's no longer millions, it has reached a billion. If you have been following the conversation on the money we are borrowing, we have just been given a loan of 75 billion.
Yes. There's another one we are looking for.
Yeah, and then the irony is, while we are asking for 75 billion, we're investigating the loss of 75 billion in a state agency. You know, that is the irony we're in.
All right. Let's bring in Anne Mvura. She's now joining us, student leader, University of Nairobi. You are there as well.
Yes, I was.
What did you take home?
What did I take home was, we were talking about a new dawn. But what really is this new dawn that we talk about every single time? Each year we come and say we want change, we want something new, but nothing actually happens. So it has become a fallacy that we come and gather, all of us, pray about something, make resolutions in your head. No resolution was made at that meeting. Make resolutions in your head of the new dawn that you want for Kenya. But who's actually actualizing this new dawn? It's become a sense of, what do we call? It's just to show that there's something being done, but nothing is actually being done. And as the youth, we didn't feel like we were part of anything. Yeah, we were not recognized for anything. We were not, nothing was talked about how the youth are going to be helped. Therefore, it's just a way that every year we'll be gathering to just eat good food.
So, will you boycott the next one?
We need to be part of that conversation.
But you said there's nothing that's happening in that conversation.
This year, we will, and I will ensure that we will lead a group of youth to bring change into this nation. Therefore, if we do bring change, I'll be part of that conversation.
This change that you keep talking about, yes. Anne, and we've seen you hanging out with most of these politicians who many people say are the people you are trying to get out of power now. Are you any different, or are you more of the same? Because we see you hanging out with them a lot.
You know, for you to be able to tackle something from within, you have to know what is actually going on. If you don't talk to these people, you would not know what their circles are talking about and how to destroy their circles from within.
I would like to disagree with her in the sense that, you know, we have young people in this nation who think that for you to do something different, you have to be in the mix. That's a wrong perception.
In the mix.
Yeah, if you ask me, that's a wrong perception. Because you cannot be with the, you cannot, for instance, my sister, she has just been elected the other day. We have been following her story. Congratulations, first of all, for being the first lady to be, you know,
in 20.
Yeah, to be at the helm of the University of Nairobi student leadership. It's not a mean feat. Yeah, so I congratulate you for that. But the point is, we have also seen you going around with politicians who we have issues with when it comes to the management of this nation. Yeah, and I'm not particularly talking about yet per se, but the young people, they should not be, you know, trying to look up to some of these people who are questionable in character, who are questionable in the way they run the affairs of this nation. And that's what we have to be straight about. If you look at this table right now, there's one thing that has come out. We are all we are all agreeing with each other that the prayer breakfast was a big disappointment.
I'm not in agreement with that.
We'll exclude that. But the point is, if you allow me to finish, the point is, this prayer thing across the board, irrespective of political parties, irrespective of political affiliation, Kenyans are disappointed in terms of when it comes to the prayer breakfast, when it comes to corruption. But at the end of the day, I want to tell my sister that we can do things differently without being in the mix.
Without being in the mix. Okay.
I think that is wrong, and I'll actually come in for you. I know that sounds like mansplaining, but you see, who says that change is fighting politicians? Who is that person that told Kenyans
because we have
that
seen
change,
that those who join politicians eventually become like them.
As in, what
the
are the politicians?
In terms of legislation,
you see,
and
the nexus between politics and policy is a tapestry that you cannot...
What, inseparable?
You cannot, because politics is the other side of policy. So, change is not necessarily fighting a section of politicians. Change is not shouting on social media. Change is not insulting leaders. Change is not just standing out there and shouting yourself hoarse. You see, if you have to pass a law, you need a change to come, for example, in a certain policy. Where will you do it? In parliament, in a directorate somewhere. So how are you going to get in there? Are you going to laminate yourself and walk around like you cannot mix up with these people? That doesn't make sense. And by the way, we really need to move this activism from online to real places where change is made.
So online is not a real place?
I'll tell you, on Twitter in Kenya, we are about 1.2, not more than 1.5 million people on Twitter. That noise you hear.
It's not a noise. I would like to
let me qualify my statement. Okay. And by that, I respect all that. I am one of those guys who actually love going there. I get my knowledge there, and I also voice up on that end. But I will say this, that 1.5 million Kenyans on Twitter, 8 million of them on Facebook, and actually the biggest number of Kenyans are on WhatsApp, a very good platform. But a recent research by BBC, a report by BBC said that if 3.5% of any population wants change, they will get 3.5%. You know in Kenya how many people are those? That's about 1.7 million people. And you know, Ahmed Kadar here is one of those guys. If you go online, there are about 30 Kenyans who are vocal and they set the trend. Others are just influencers. They just pick up. The people who speak their mind are very few. Wanja, him, and you can actually count the same people keep on going to. What are the others doing? If we can bring that strength back, probably in the right platforms, in the right spaces. If you meet a politician, you know who said that politicians are evil? They are the people you people elected the other day. And then all of a sudden you're saying that if you appear with a politician, it is wrong. It's not true.
I think you're missing the point.
Okay, let governor.
And then you're sitting next to one.
Yeah.
Let me explain the reason as to why I say that we are in the right track. The prayer breakfast has not lost meaning. And let's appreciate that Kenya has borrowed this from the United States of America. And we know the history of America and the strong belief that they have and trust they have in God, to a point of writing their trust in God in their currencies. And Kenya adopted this practice. The conversation of the prayer breakfast started way back in 1987. 1988, Keino was really struggling to lure and call politicians to join small prayer groups. But along the way, it disappeared. Was jump-started again in 2002.
But is it relevant today?
I'm just coming. And up to now, we are the 17th prayer breakfast. But we've not been talking about corruption every other prayer breakfast. We have been talking on different themes. Last year, we've been talking about the unity. And I think as a country, we are at a point that we were heated politically. And I think we have achieved. The temperatures are really down. We have a very good atmosphere for economy to thrive. It is by the prayers made by Kenyans and politicians.
Some of your panelists are believe you, but their faces.
2015, 2016, we had 2016 was the unity, 2015 was a new dawn in Kenya, 2014 was God's divine intervention in Kenya. And I think the first thing that
different themes, right?
Those are different themes. And I think one thing that we need to accept as a country, we need God's hand.
Okay.
We all accept that we need prayers.
I think
Okay.
Number
you
two,
want to jump in, but
something
warning us that we are due for a break. Please finish.
Before she comes in,
Yes.
there are a lot of other things that happens around the prayer breakfast. It is not just a single day that we come and pray and leave. There are a lot of other things that happens around the prayer breakfast. Number one, we have prayer groups that meets every week in Parliament, in this town, city of Nairobi. We have the Muthaiga, we have Boulevard, we have several groups that are meeting to pray for this nation.
Of legislatures.
Legislatures, business people, religious people coming together to pray. And not only praying, but also have a candid discussions about issues that are affecting our country. Okay. When we talk of leaders, I was involved or introduced to the prayer breakfast in 2012 when I was a student president at Mount Kenya University. Since then, I have been part of this through AYLF, and I know, Anne, and congratulations, you have been introduced to the National Prayer Breakfast through Africa Youth Leadership Forum. A lot of issues are being discussed, including impacting values and virtues to these young people so that they can become leaders of a different future.
Of a different going future. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back because we need to take a break. And I know some of you want to respond to what he has had to say, because she says she saw no value for the youth yesterday. You said there's tremendous value. We'll be talking about that on the other side of the break. But an interesting SMS here, all the way from California. I don't know that it's Calif or California in the US of A. But Mutiso Muli says the event should have been named Breakfast of the Elite. How do you read a prayer on a piece of paper? I wish they would have tried to burn offerings to see if the smoke will ascend to the heavens. Think about that. Trevor, we'll be back.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with the more. What we're asking is, has the National Prayer Breakfast lost its value? 22422.